nominations?
I nominate Steve.
I second that.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I guess we'll take a vote.
So what was the nomination
Nominated me to remain as chair.
for you?
Yeah.
Well, I'd vote for you, sure.
Yeah, I guess I would ask, since there aren't any other nominees, does everyone feel comfortable casting a unanimous ballot? Did I continue?
Aye.
Okay. Now, vice chair, we'll open for nominations. I'd like to nominate Lynn Bruce to continue in that position.
I'd second that.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, I would also offer that we cast a unanimous ballot that Lynn continue as vice chair. All in favor?
Aye,
Opposed? Unanimous?
unanimous, there you go.
Yeah, we'll jump to agency updates. We'll start with, actually not with Ms. Deagle, but just Forest Service updates.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
New phases, so I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Jeff Marzell and I'm the forest supervisor for the Ocho National Forest and Crooked River National Grasslands. So I've been in the job since June. That still makes me relatively new, right? I'm gonna hold on to that for a while. Yeah. It's nice to see everybody. I'm gonna keep this fairly short and focus on some specific things that we have. I see we have a big agenda today, and I know Jacob Young from the forest is gonna give a presentation as well, so I don't wanna leave a lot of time for that, but I think I'm gonna focus on a couple of things. Some good news stories, if you will. So let's talk a little bit about prescribed fire. Last fall, we had a very successful prescribed burning season. I think, I was just talking to Slater, I think we burned well over 10,000 acres across the forest and grassland, and that was a mixture of broadcast burning and pile burning. So that was great. We're well above target. Target is what's been asked of us from Congress and from our regional office, so we're doing really well there. And for this spring, we're planning another 5,000 acre broadcast burned out by Ranger Station. That's part of the Polina Ranger.
Did you get that right?
I had to think about that. So, Robbie, when are we looking to do that? It's like soon, right?
First of May.
1st of May. So looking forward to that. So if you think about that, we've had a really good between last fall and spring. We're doing really important active management, fuels reduction work out in the landscape. Here's definitely some good news. Believe it or not, fire season, at least for us, we're starting to plan for fire season. We're in that mode already. All the spring meetings are coming up. We're bringing our seasonals on for our hot shot crews and our engines and everyone else. But so our hiring season this year has gone really, really well. And looks like we're gonna be operating all 4 of our Type 6 engines plus a Type 3 engine. And the BLM Dayville unit will provide additional support with 1 Type 4 engine and 1 Type 6 engine in Dayville. So last year we didn't have enough staffing to fill all our engines, so we're fully staffed this year. All of our engines are staffed. So that's pretty cool. And then we also have a 13-person initial attack crew that's fully staffed. And of course, we have the Prineville Hot Shots based out of Prineville. Of course, they're a national resource, but we host them and they do a lot of work for us. So we're getting prepared for fire season, and it feels like we have the staffing that we need to address whatever challenges come our way. So that's. Here's the bad news. Or I mean, you guys probably have a better sense of this than any of us, but the snowpack is really low. I've got some numbers here. We're at about 30% of snowpack across the Cascades, Blue Mountains, and the Ocho Mountains. The precipitation is like at 80%, so we're getting the rain, but we're not getting the snow. And you know how critical snow is to that long-term storage for holding fire season off till later in the year, so, that could be challenging. But, I've been having these conversations with my fire managers, and I'm not sure if this is anecdotal or scientific, but when we have a lot of snow, we tend to get a lot of lightning. When we don't have a lot of snow, we tend not to get as much lightning. And it's not unusual for a droughty year like this not to get a lot of lightning. Folks with a lot more experience than me are shaking that, right, Todd? It's true. Is that anecdotal or is it? I don't know. We don't really know, but there is definitely, so I'm not saying, don't hang your hat on that. We have no idea. Weather's been kind of crazy lately, but we'll see where it goes. And then, oftentimes if we continue to get the rain, right, and rain deep into spring, that'll hold fire season off for a while. It'll come, it's inevitable, but it's like length of season, right? But the other issue, even if we don't get lightning, last year we had 4 major fires on the grassland and on the forest, and they were all human caused. So, no lightning fires last year, so just because we don't get lightning doesn't mean we won't get fires. So, that's just what it is. So we're gonna switch gears, and really proud of the work that my team did around some recent projects that we're working on. We're calling them the North Slope projects. And Robbie had to confuse us and call one of his projects the North Slope project. So we have 2 projects going on in the Ochoco. On the north slope of the Ochoco Mountains, one's on Paulina, called the North Slope project. And then one's on Lookout Mountain called the Chop Creek, Butch Creek project. These are large, very large landscape scale projects with a focus on timber, vegetation management, addressing the insect and disease issues that we have out there. We have a lot of mortality, and of course, creating safe conditions for our wildland firefighters. Combined, these projects will treat 16,000 to 20,000 acres of commercial timber. That's the largest timber project on the Ochoco in recent memory, so we're proud of that. And then just lots and lots of fields work and other types of activities to meet those objectives that I mentioned. We're expecting, hard to say, anywhere from 40 to 60 million board feet from those projects. So we finished the scoping. We initiated the scoping, finished the proposed action last week. We had a key stakeholder meeting with some folks that showed up, so that was really good. So scoping, we started scoping, it ends first week in April, a 30-day scoping period, and then we'll have the decision for both projects, for both EAs at the same time in March of 2027, and then we'll get towards implementing. So pretty excited about that. And I put a deadline of 6 months to get those proposed actions done, and my team met the deadline, so they deserve credit for that. People working really hard to meet our active management objectives. Another big initiative is our reforestation. We all know about the fires from 2024. So we're working on that. We have the 3 Fries decision, which authorizes tens of thousands of acres of reforestation. And we have our biggest reforestation planting contract ever on the Ochoco starts in a couple of weeks. I think it's 3,000 acres, Robbie?
So we're starting, yeah.
Yeah, we're starting with that. So we're gonna be putting a lot of trees in the ground. So looking forward to that, to bring back that next generation of forest that we know we need out there, especially on the east side of the forest. On the Paulina district, near where the regular ranger station is.
I'm ignoring you.
Good enough myself.
Keep it up, Jeff.
You've seen it, there's a lot on here, there's a lot on here, I don't wanna get into all this, but there's a lot of projects going on, a lot of active management going on, lots of watershed management work, right? We're really focusing on improving watershed conditions. That's really good for forage, it's good for wildlife, it's good for downstream users, right? When we build up, the headwaters of the North Fork of the Crook River is on the forest, and all that water goes downstream to agricultural uses and municipal uses. So lots of good work going on there, field bank work, restoration work. The only other thing I want to mention before I hand it off is some of the timber sales. Mentioned timber, we're having a really good fiscal year this year as well. We just sold the slab timber sale last week. 4.6 million board feet. Right? Yeah, I think so. I think that's on Sater's district, so that's exciting. And then we're in the process of pulling together an offering for the pine timber sale. That's a G&A sale that's being managed by the Oregon Department of Forestry. We have an agreement with them. They're putting the sale together, and we're expecting that to go out to bid in June-ish. But we'll see, but we'll have it out and we're confident we'll have it sold by the end of the fiscal year, so we're on track to meet our timber targets for 2026, so. Then lots of other great work that's been going on, lots of implementation of current timber sales that we have, so. That's pretty much it for me, unless there are any questions. We're good. I think your hand was up first.
Yeah, have you any trouble getting bids on the timber?
This last one, not at all. I think we had 3 bids.
3, did you?
We had 3, maybe.
Well, being all these mills closed down here, I thought it might be a problem getting people to bid on them.
Slater, you can help elaborate?
No, we didn't. I think we got 2 or 3 bids on that and.
We had a choice.
The choices of species, right?
Yeah.
So it was a pretty good mix for potential, purchase.
Good. Yeah, so did you get all the timber, the piles burned out by grizzly? The junipers?
The pace work, we have a little bit more to go.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got most of it done, and we had to, as I mentioned last month, we had to stop because of dryness, it was too dry.
Oh,
So,
Yeah.
so we still got some left to do, and we also, gonna use some of those pace units for our Central Oregon Wildfire School.
Oh, that's right.
So,
A little bit more work to come.
Yeah.
But we've done a lot of that work out there already, but.
Well, you guys did such a good job. I was hoping maybe you'd go up and do that for that big piles up there past the airport on the left.
There were some other hands, I don't remember who it was.
Me,
That's yours.
forest planning.
Yeah.
So, what's going on with forest plan revisions? I'm curious to know because we're
it's a
well
great
overdue for this
Oh,
one.
yeah,
and
1989, right?
We're not doing amendments much, so it would be great if we could get an update on where we are.
I can truth, I don't really have one, other than to tell you that the
Okay.
Utica National Forest is not in line right now
Mm,
to have forest plan revision done. The emphasis right now here is on the Blue Mountains, right?
mhm.
Umatilla, Walla Living, and the Malheur are getting their plans revised right now as we speak. They're doing it together. This is started before I got here. I don't know why we're not part of that,
Yeah,
because ecologically, socioeconomically, we're much more similar to those forests than we are to the Deschutes.
Most
We're very
definitely.
closely tied to the Deschutes. So us with everything else going on and all the changes organizationally, it just hasn't come up, and it's something that we desperately need. I couldn't agree with you more. And those efforts kind of start at the top. We don't really have decision authority really to like initiate our own forest plan revision. That usually comes from
Well
our
aware.
leadership, but I think it'd
Unfortunately,
be great for you guys to like,
What
whoever's in the
can we
room and
do?
has that kind of influence, like, please, we would love
Okay.
to see that happen. Ours is very outdated.
well, and I hate to see that, all the east side forests where we are so much more socioeconomically
Yeah.
in tune are doing theirs and, this forest is left out because you're right, we are not, similar and it is a socioeconomic,
Absolutely.
document, so it's.
And Slater, you were around, like, do you know why we didn't get, was there any conversation of us getting pulled
It
into
was
that?
a plan. In the forest, the Malheur, Umatilla, Walla Whitman, they were doing when they were doing their revision, we were supposed to come next after that, using
That's what
the
I thought,
information
yeah.
they, all the,
Model.
analysis and stuff that they had, because we're in line with that, and then they pulled it. They, meaning the WO, pulled it and stopped it, dead stop, up until recently, and not redoing it, but they're picking it back up again.
For those
So,
three forests.
For those 3/4, and like Jeff said, they didn't give any, like.
There's no
another
commitment that
forest
the Utica
view
will
on
get
that.
revised anytime soon, but I think it's a great question. And it always helps if you guys kind of raise that at whatever level you can. And I know Tim was at the Washington office. Really, we didn't talk about that as an issue, like for you to bring up with the undersecretary, but yeah, we know it's long overdue and look forward to engaging in that when the time
Well,
comes.
I would like to propose then that we would ask the county commissioners if they would like to write a letter
But
uh,
really appreciate that.
to ask for, why we're not doing it with the East Side Forest, where we're more socioeconomically alike, and where we are with in line for that. Because it's so overdue, and with all the restrictions on doing amendments and that kind of thing, it's just not a good thing.
I will add,
Continue with the way we are.
the East Side Screens, if familiar with the East Side Screens, that manages a lot of what we can do on the forest. There is an effort at a regional level to amend the East Side Screens, which would have significant implications for us, would loosen up some of the restrictions that we have around cutting trees 21 inches or greater. That
would be good.
That's something that's in the works, but they want to complete the revision to the Northwest Forest Plan first. That's priority number one, and then supposedly they're gonna move over to the East Side Screens, but haven't seen a timeline on that, but I know it's something that's been discussed, so.
I'm sure that
If
had
not,
something to
wouldn't
do with
revise our,
it.
wouldn't revise our forest plan, but it would revise those screens, which have a lot of
Yeah.
influence over what we can do on them.
Yeah.
You, you mentioned stakeholder meeting has already passed for the, roads. North
Later on,
project.
Lower and that Birch Creek project, yeah.
What constitutes or what qualifies you as a stakeholder? And was this group included?
I'll let
I'm happy to
Isabella.
answer that. Yes, this group was invited. It sent, an invitation to your, NRAC general email as well as Kim. But we had also presented on those projects, last month. But regarding our key stakeholders, I mean, I think you could say we're all stakeholders, right? We're community members. But in this specific meeting, we brought together, folks such as AFRC, we brought, Central Oregon Land Watch, people who frequently comment on our projects. And so we wanted to give them an opportunity to ask us questions prior to the scoping process actually beginning.
Well, we're happy to engage with this group as much and as often as possible around that project. So
But the one of the things, I think Isabella hit on it when Robbie and Johnny K gave the presentation to to this group about a month ago.
January,
That's
maybe.
essentially 2 months ago, well.
Yeah, January.
Okay. That's essentially the same thing that was presented to the stakeholders. So you got it first here before we went. So.
Okay. And does that stakeholders meeting, how to say, influence how things are looked at on down the road when we actually get into scoping?
Not absurd. I mean, because our direction is pretty clear in terms of what we need to focus on. So if it's something that that we really need to pay close attention to that we didn't for some reason, we can readjust. But our marching orders are pretty clear. And so that's what we're focused on, and what we're doing, we're streamlining stuff. We're not doing a whole lot of stuff in our HCA's, as we mentioned in the meeting 2 months ago. So we're pretty focused on let's.
So we have no more, essentially our input is going to be limited from this point on.
it's not the choice. Still by. Oh, wait, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and.
I'm sorry. I thought he was going. Whoever wants to talk.
Just,
So to
that
clarify,
you're very clear on what you're gonna do.
so yes, and I'm not gonna disagree with Slater. We do have very clear internal direction on what our priorities are and what we can do within the scope that we're given. That is not going to change. There are executive orders, internal direction, etc. However, where we do have wiggle room, we do want to engage. That's why we had this meeting. That's why we're here with you all. That's why Jeff
Yes.
made the choice to have a scoping period, which is something that under new NEPA regulation, we're not required to do. That was a choice that Jeff made and that we had to advocate for. We had to receive USDA approval to even do a scoping process. So input does matter to us. We are limited in what we can do with that and the changes we can make, but where we do have that wiggle room, we always want to engage. We
We're
want-
maximizing the wiggle room we have to get our message out, and as a matter of fact, Friday, I'm presenting at the Prineville Perk Chamber of Commerce. I'm gonna be doing like a presentation talking about myself, but Robbie and Johnny will be presenting these projects again to a different group. We're presenting our projects to the Warm Springs Tribe tomorrow, so where we can, we want to engage with as many stakeholders as possible, get our message out, and again, we're in the scoping period now, right? It's a 30-day scoping. We only started week one. Organizationally, I mean, this is your chance to submit comments to us, which we'll take very seriously, take into consideration. And we'll see, depending on the nature of the comments, make adjustments as necessary, though I think our direction is pretty clear what we want to do, and I can't imagine that this group or this community would have issue with what it is that we're trying to accomplish out there, but that's up to you to decide. But we're scoping right now. We'd love to hear from you guys as individuals or as an organization. So, does that help? Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay, cool.
But see, we haven't heard any specifics. We don't know what, how close you're trying to get to historic standing level is for. How, you know, how many trees per acre are you aiming for?
Yeah.
And, you know, things like that. I see way too much on the other end. I see 400 trees per acre a lot of the time. And so we need to get,
Yeah, so Cliff, our proposed action is driven by the historical range of variability, okay? So we're gonna keep it, you know, if it's above, we're gonna get it within. If it's below, we can't do, you know, anything, so.
Right.
Our proposed action, following our forest plan, is gonna bring us in line with the HRD, okay? Now, to be clear, on the Pliny district, we could have cut trees over 21 inches, and we chose not to. And that was because of efficiency and from previous experiences of cutting trees over 21 inches. And it didn't pencil out economically. And, you know, we're looking at the challenges of getting that through in a timely and efficient manner, if we chose that approach.
right,
So, I
but
mean,
we've got a lot of Doug fir. I can understand the ponderosa pine not being cut.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of Doug fir that is over 21 inches.
Yeah.
And that does need to come out. They're really
Yeah.
more of the ponderosa pine site. And
Right,
we need to
you're right.
get to those.
But here's the thing that we have to do in that is that those big trees, we gotta be able to market. So we're hauling, Robbie from Robbie's, a hazard tree sale, on Crazy or Rail, one of them, I think it's Crazy, Rail. And the one at the, March Street had dug for, we were taking that slam on a little while.
That's true, so, but they're also at an age where they aren't gonna be marketable for very long.
That's true, but we can't get them to the market because economic, they're not, you can't, they don't pencil out. They're going to end up that way anyway.
I mean, in summary, I think for these projects, I mean, we're, again, within the constraints that we have, we are maximizing our harvest potential.
I like to see.
We really
that.
are. And as far as the 21 inch, I mean, it's the amount of what we were told by our silviculturists, the amount of 21 inch trees within the units we've identified is very minor. And I talked to AFRC, Irene Jerome, we talked to some purchasers. It's at that level, like 21 inch tree per acre. It's problematic economically. There's nowhere for it to go. We were just like Gilcrest. I mean, they're only taking pine, like it's gotta pencil out for us economically. And that's not to say we won't look at those opportunities in the future more broadly, but for this particular effort, it's just, I mean, that's why I talked to IFRC. They agree. They totally understand why. It just doesn't make sense. But there's gonna be so much volume coming out of this. We're gonna be able to like meet the need for, you know, our market zone that we have influence over. And so we're confident that the amount of timber coming off the Oak Grove, it's gonna be a level we haven't seen in a long time, because that's what we're being asked to do. So we think that the 21 inch thing would just end up being a barrier So it's just trying to get this done so we can make sure that we're supporting our industry and looking for that reliable and steady supply of timber, which I know is they need they need that predictable supply in order to make business decisions. So it's kind of where we're at. Hope that gets to your.
Oh, it does.
But as far as
It
specifics,
does.
Tim, if you want, we'll come in here next month and we have more detail now, and we'd be happy to present in more detail, whatever level of detail we can provide at this point, to this group, happy to do that.
Okay.
Because I think what you saw in January, you're right, we were building it up, but now the proposed act, presented at that stakeholder meeting last week. You guys are invited to participate in that, but I get it, people are busy. We'd be happy to come back and do a more detailed presentation for this group, absolutely.
So, couple things. I don't ever remember getting an invite to your stakeholder meeting last week. And I don't know if any of you got an email inviting you to that. So I apologize if we did get it, but don't remember getting an email. Secondly, to Cliff, your point, in all the presentations, December, January, regarding these projects, it was made very clear that the forest already thought they had pulled anything that might be controversial out, i.e. no harvest within RCA's, which you guys expressed a lot of concern about eliminating those areas from the deal because they do need treated. And you were promised that, well, we'll revisit that in the future. So I guess our issue is hold your feet to the fire. But it would have been interesting to hear the Center for Biodiversity, the Deschutes folks, the environmental community, I can just figure poor old Irene last week with AFRC, the only industry person probably represented at the stakeholder meeting. The rest of them were folks that are anti-logging. What if they just sat and listened last week, or if they had issues that might influence what the final products look like? Because again, their meeting was at the beginning of scoping, so they're now back in their organizations formulating their scoping letters. And who knows what those are gonna look like. So maybe there'll be a teaser at the next meeting when the forest has had a chance to review those and summarize those scoping letters to let you know what sort of the anti-forest management thought processes might be. But that's what happened by missing the opportunity to go last week, was missing to hear not what Irene had to say, but what the other folks had to say.
I would add to that too as well, because it's not just missing what people had to say, but also being face to face in a room with all stakeholders. There's a lot of value in sharing those thoughts and ideas and sitting in the same room as much as we possibly can. And I know you appreciate that, because I can tell that from what your background is and why you're pushing and why you're wanting to have those scoping. When they don't do it and you're not mandated to do it. So I think that's very important, and I appreciate that a lot. But being in the same room with stakeholders initially in a project always makes it better all the way through. And so if we can
I don't know,
manage to do
I
that.
don't know.
Yeah, I'll confirm, but agree with you absolutely. That's why this group was on the invitation list. I didn't receive any kickbacks. I'm not sure why it wouldn't have gotten delivered, but I can definitely investigate that. But yes, absolutely, that's why.
It's the purpose of, yeah, because we agree with you 100%.
I mean, I was out of town and I would come back for that. I'm just saying.
We're already at this point.
Yeah.
But we want to be included. Fully.
And you have an opportunity, when we do the draft, respond to that, because like I said, this is pretty focused in it. I think we are, because of the mandate, we're being directed here.
Yeah, and this is the most hopeful I've been in.
That's good.
So Slater, regarding that,
Yes.
with the new changes in processes, once you issue a decision, maybe it's a draft decision, not know the right.
Yes.
what will be the public's opportunity
Respond.
to write either for or against and or threaten lawsuits, which delay the process?
Well, I'm not sure that you could, if you object, we're going to court. So-
That's the word I was looking for,
There's
objection.
no objection period.
Yeah,
So because we're part of the emergency situation determination, these acres, these projects are in a geographical area that is determined as being in a sort of an emergency situation, and then because of all the fuel loading and the risk of catastrophic wildfire. We picked these projects specifically because they fall within that designation. I think someone said it at the beginning, that really streamlines our process quite a bit. And so this project, these two projects, there's no objection process, which really slows us down. But there will be an opportunity for comments after the draft. So the draft comes out, there's another comment on the draft. Then we'll analyze those. That may or may not change the decision. It really depends on what comments we get. That's not to say someone couldn't sue America, you could still sue us after the decision. But there's no objection period as part of this NEPA process for these two projects.
That's what I was looking for, thanks.
You're welcome.
We have one more question.
Sure.
Mr. Brewer.
Hey, hi.
When you talked about your fall burns and spring burns, I'm curious to know, are your botanists following the results of those as far as the range goes and your grasses and how you?
Are we monitoring?
And are you seeing any big differences? And it seems like with this kind of a droughty year that you're gonna burn in May, and that's seems a little late for this kind of year.
I'm gonna let Sarah pick that up. He's
the
got
May
more.
burn is on Robbie and it's out. Out there, you know, it holds moisture a little longer than,
That's right.
than say on the Lookout Mountain District. So that's probably more in alignment, right? Because I'm guessing that out there, if it snowed up on the pass or in Ocho Mountain, on Ocho Divide, you probably got snow out there. That's why, but to answer your question, we do monitor what happens, what comes back afterwards. In terms of botany, in terms of plants and that kind of thing, because we want to get the plants we want back. And try not to have the plants we don't want back.
Right.
You know, so yes, we do to answer your question.
So are you seeing any difference between your fall burns and spring burns?
We have. We saw some difference up, when we did a spring burn up Mackay. We saw plants really respond to that, because again, we had a little more moisture in the soil. So we burned some things that the thing that we wanted to burn, and that gave the stuff that we wanted to sprout up, bunch grasses and things, just a little bit of a leap above the things that we didn't want. So yes, we have seen some stuff like some positive responses, and I think back 2 months ago, I think Tim mentioned that he saw some active grasses growing where we did up on Grizzly. So yes, we have.
Yep.
These new mandates that you guys are talking about, where can I find them so I know what you guys are operating with and against?
Is it all of you as far as just, because like administrative priorities, those kinds of things? Sure, of course, yeah. I mean, probably Google it. It's out there, I think. It's pretty
Yeah,
out there.
all
but-
executive orders are,
Yeah, executive order.
I was just
are
trying to.
available on I think it's whitehouse.gov. So and that's a big part.
There's a
of it.
lot out there though, so it'd be hard for you.
Out there, but I'm happy to send out a link for specifically the executive
Yeah.
order that ties into these projects. And then should be able to find some public information that I can link regarding,
Okay, well, what about,
specific agency.
what about
projects.
your administrative rules that come out of these executive orders? Because you have to, executive orders can't cover everything, so
Yeah, I think that
USDA should have
if
administrative rules.
if it's publicly available, then I'm happy to find that and link it. If it's internal policy, then that would require a higher level of authorization to share that out publicly.
I believe our scoping letter to our projects explain that very clearly, which the
Oh,
executive orders
Yeah.
are. And what the direction is for each agency, so that's what we follow and that's how we do this, so if we get you guys, who haven't already received the scoping letter, that will be pretty clear.
That
And
came
we've got
to
the links in
But I think another,
Yeah, I
thing
think
Right here.
when we, 2 months ago, when we did the presentation, I think you addressed, and in your presentation, you addressed the executive orders right off the bat.
yeah, and then also Jen Abernathy, our planner, was here and gave you guys a summary of all the changes to the NEPA process. As we know, the Forest Service doesn't have NEPA regulations anymore. It's all under USDA, and that's driving a lot of this too, so that's streamlining our process quite a bit. And then also, I think what you could benefit from, maybe we have, Tim, have you seen the Region Six active management strategy? Maybe that's so that kind of covers a lot of what I think you're asking for, because you're right, there's the executive orders and like, what does that actually mean? Like, for us, and so I'm gonna have Isabella, if you can take note, we have our totally publicly available, Region 6, Oregon, Washington, we put together, and I was part of that team, the regional leadership team, a active management strategy that lays out our objectives to meet those executive orders and all the mandates I think you're asking about. And that gives you a pretty good idea, like, we're working kind of under that, and so that might help.
Yeah,
Interpret what I think you're
That would
looking
be
for,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll send that out as well.
Real quick, has there been any movement on the proposals to increase efficiency in all this by eliminating regional offices or condensing them down to 3 locations or something?
Talking about the USDA reorganization, that's, yeah, I can give you an update on that. So we're still waiting on the final plan. We're expecting the reorg plan to come out maybe in the next 2 to 8 weeks. Very government, right? So, we're expecting it soon. It's coming. I know that because the Washington office pulling together reorganization teams or drawing people in from different regions to work on these transition teams to implement the strategy. So it's coming out and we don't know exactly what it says. So, but the signaling, if you will, like what we're anticipating is, please don't quote me on this, it could end up looking totally different, but what we expect is what you just suggested is it appears that the regional offices will be eliminated. The Washington office will be, shrunk quite a bit. It'll be diminished. A lot of the research stations that we have will also be eliminated. Not all of them. And then a lot of what those regional offices did, what the Washington office does, like all of that, all those kinds of operations were gonna get switched over to what they're calling USDA hubs. I think that you were getting at is 5 primary hubs, as far as we know. And then, so a lot of the stuff that the regional office, a lot of support we got from the regional office will now come from the hubs themselves. But what's different is these are not Forest Service hubs, these are USDA hubs. So they'll have NRCS, Forest Service, Farm Bureau, like all the different agencies that fall under USDA. But we'll have elements of what we're used to having, the support that we normally get at the unit level from those hubs. I'll say the only issue, like the closest hub for us is Salt Lake City. And Fort Collins, Colorado. Right now, we're really hoping, I'm just gonna say, like, we're kind of hoping like, that all sounds good, but it'd be nice to have a hub on the Pacific Coast, so we can have a little bit more of a, that's kind of far away from us, but again, that's the signaling, that doesn't mean that's what the plan is gonna say, but that's kind of what we're anticipating. I think the good news in all of this is that the units themselves, again, as far as I know, like international board, every status quo. Actually, what we agreed, the chief, undersecretary, they're really trying to get the resources to the units, give us more discretion, give us more authority, so we can manage the lands at our level in collaboration with our community. So that's planned, but obviously, once that drops, Tim, we obviously will give you the full rundown of what that looks like. And I'll give you my interpretation of what that means for this community. Thank you. And all that, of course. 45 minutes. I didn't bring any water.
And you said you were gonna be short.
I thought it was gonna be, that's okay, no, I appreciate.
It was the
all this.
questions that did
No,
it.
these are great questions and I'm here for you guys and. Yeah, I don't know, any other questions, I'm totally available, but I know we have a lot of other people lined up here, so.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
You're very welcome. Good job.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, all right.
Go to, yes, sir. BLM.
Once again, I only get 15 seconds. Forest Service went left. Go first. If you wanna take one, pass it down, take one, pass it down.
We might have questions for you too.
Maybe a couple.
It can happen.
I noticed on the agenda, the vacant allotment review and application is separate. I don't know if you want me to wait. If you're. There's some documentation in all this. So, did everybody get one? Now, I didn't leave one for myself, so I gotta read off you.
Oh, okay.
So, real quick, fire updates. Again, as I talked about last time, all fire personnel have left their DOI agencies and now are a part of the US Wildland Fire Service. They are a totally separate agency within DOI that reports directly to the secretary. And, we don't have a lot of information other than we continue to believe that on this level, in terms of fighting fire this summer, it will be seamless. There won't be any issues. And that's because of local relationships, and we will continue to do the things that we need to do to fight
Say
fire.
that again.
Locally, we believe everything's gonna be just fine in terms of fighting fire on the ground this summer. We will continue our relationship with Kaufmas and the Forest Service, Oregon Department of Forestry. All of the mechanics of fighting fire aren't gonna change. There'll be some background stuff that nobody else should see, and then things will work through, and who knows what'll happen next year in 27.
You'll still be able to access it for crews from your unit that go on fires, or will they go on fires?
As of right now, everything's gonna stay the same in terms of operations this summer. But
Yeah, earlier I had been told that although they'll be forming the fire service, that it won't actually come into effect until after the fire season this fall. When they make the total changeover, is that still correct? Or is that-
they have the chief selected, and they're working on those next tiers of selections. That's still not in place. The table of organization isn't determined yet, right? So it'll be a while before they get all the way through that. And that's why we're all firmly focused on, at the local level, there will not be any changes. Yes, somebody else is gonna sign that person's timesheet, but in terms of doing work, nothing's gonna change. Okay, fire rehab projects, the Crazy Creek and Rail Ridge fires from 2024, we're continuing aerial seeding. We got funding for sagebrush plug grow outs. So we'll continue to, once we get those, to continue to plant those. Which is a big deal. We didn't know if we were gonna get a lot of that funding. We're getting it. We have initial contract request in for some fence construction, especially in on that Rail Ridge side. That's what's going on with those right now. I did want to bring up, we talked about the virtual fencing last time, and we do have one permittee, not in Crook County, but somebody who's they've worked with us on targeted grazing of this early spring, these emerging grasses. And they're on the ground right now with a whole bunch of yearlings hammering on those annual grasses. And they've applied for grants to move forward with the virtual fencing. So pretty excited there to see how this turns out. And as we all know, there's a ton of support for that.
And that's kind of a big step. Well, not for BLM, because you're very flexible on dates of grazing, correct?
Yes, yeah, especially in a lot of our open range allotments.
Forest Service needs.
We're open to dates.
Okay, I'll leave the vacant grazing allotments to the end and you can decide if you want me to push it off. Our integrated weeds management EA, I brought this up last time too, where we're working through the process to authorize new chemicals. That, if you're reading there, it says NEPA in a week. Really what that is traditionally when we do an environmental assessment, it'll take 6 months, right? And specialists will get to it as they can, mixed in with their other priorities that we're doing. That's not the way this one worked. We had a note taker, we had a facilitator, we had a NEPA expert from the state office. We had everybody ensconced in a room together, all the specialists, for about 10 days now total to walk through this entire thing. So that those of you familiar with the EA process, chapters 1 and 2, then chapters 3 and 4, and all the analysis that takes place. So instead of 6 months or more, that portion is now a couple weeks.
What did you feed them?
You know, I was gone. I left a bunch of money with our party planner guy, said, make sure they're fed. There was a lot of junk food. What I saw. Yes. So that is our future for environmental assessments going forward. Is those portions will happen hopefully within 2 weeks. No more of that dragging out, because these are our priorities. Let's see, other important ones for y'all, Kelly Canyon juniper removal, partnering with Crook SWCD. About 173 acres we're looking at, working with them to get removed primarily for water quality, but also, right, anytime you remove juniper and you do it right, you open up for likely grazing improvements. So pretty excited about that. It's moving pretty quick. Bear Creek, another juniper project there, and then woody debris as well. Contractor hired by the Nature Conservancy. So we got a lot of moving parts in all these. It's tough for BLM to do most anything. Real quick, let me stop. I want to introduce Kevin.
Hi, Kevin Weldon, filling in for Lisa Clark, while she's away on the Vail District. So I'm filling in as the field manager for the next 4 months. So I'll be in until about May, and then Lisa will be back from Vail after that. So yeah, Kyle's counterpart for the time being. I was gonna add for the Bear Creek, one of our hydrologists presented on that the last time, maybe it was in January on that project. And so right now we're just focusing on the juniper component of that. I know there's some more conversation, maybe some field trips to happen on the other components of the project regarding the BEAs, structures.
Thanks, Kevin. Additionally, Alkali Butte timber sale, Sanford Creek juniper thinning, also Kevin's.
Yep.
And I think we've talked about that a little bit. Plan to sell the contract start work in FY27 for Alkali Butte. And Sanford Creek is underway, and that again is another partnership, ODF and ODFW. So that's how BLM gets work done. We don't have a big staff, but we got a lot of people who know a lot of people. Last 2 items. So I'll touch real quick on my proposed South Fork Cricket field trip. And Tim and I talked today about some possible dates and what that might look like. Tim, do you want to weigh in at all?
Sure, yeah. So for your April meeting, field tour to Camp Creek area will be the April meeting. There won't be one on the 9th, 8th of April. I'll be at the AFRC meeting in Stevenson, Washington that week. So Kyle, when he came in January, talked about a potential tour to look at the conflicts going on out there on Camp Creek, and you all seem interested. So we thought we'd move forward with that idea and look at those 2 dates in April, see if there was any conflicts anybody knew about, and if there weren't, then the 29th and 30th, the Wednesday or a Thursday, the last week of April.
I'm clear for
It will be pretty much because of distance, a whole day event. We haven't got the details of when to depart and when we're gonna get home, but. Doesn't sound like there's any conflict, so we can.
Well, I don't know, I'm still looking.
Oh, you're still looking.
The 29th works better for me than the
Okay.
Okay.
Both okay for me.
I think the 30th would work better for me, but.
Me too.
Okay, and I'll let you handle working with the group, see what date it is for you. It works, whatever we need to do on my end. Not a problem.
I can be bought, you know.
That right. Okay.
Does everyone feel comfortable picking a date right now?
Either one's fine with me.
Give me 1 second.
Fine with me.
Both okay for me.
Both.
I'd rather do the 30th.
That's Thursday.
That's Thursday.
Me too.
I would rather do the 30th.
It depends on how early it is all. So if that's fine, there's more people that can make the 30th than the 29th.
Well, what do you mean by how early? I'm thinking we'll probably leave town 9-ish.
I'll make it by the skin of my teeth. I gotta be in bed from 6 to 8 that morning.
Okay,
That's
so maybe a quarter after 9 or 9:30. I mean, again, it'll take us an hour, 15 minutes to get there. So if we left at 9:30 and, you know, came home in the afternoon, it'd still have plenty of time to,
okay.
so we'll do it at 9:30 on Thursday, the
We
30th.
can also set
30th?
up our first, let everyone know our first stop point.
Right.
And then,
In case they have to catch up.
Yeah, sure.
That works good.
So is that the 29th?
30th,
30.
9:30.
yeah. Logistics to follow.
Where do we meet?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
April 30th at 9:30 and logistics to follow.
Yeah, it'll be all day.
And Tim's bringing lunch.
And what are we calling this?
Well, we're gonna visit the Camp Creek community allotments.
Yes.
Creek Community Allotment.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll have topics of livestock grazing, we'll have topics of wild horse liggett table updates. We'll have topics of trespass, we'll have lots of topics.
Water quality.
Water quality, yeah.
And where will we meet?
Kyle and I'll figure it out and I'll get info out to everybody.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this just restricted to these people on the committee, or can other people come?
So my goal for this, right, is this committee has expressed a lot of interest, right? When we went through the grazing permit renewal process, this committee expressed a lot of interest. Of course, the permittee expressed a lot of interest, and ONDA expressed a lot of interest. For expedience sake, it makes sense to get everybody there. So if you all decide that you want to bring somebody else, that's up to you. That's my goal.
In theory, I guess, under the public meeting rules, since you all are coming and this is kind of your meeting, that it's a public meeting, and so.
Okay.
The
Thank you.
public can choose to tag along, and I'm not providing lunch. Despite what Frank wants me to do.
Well, we know what kind of lunch it would be if you guys provide it, because you already talked about that. It's gonna be all junk food, so let's do something different.
Okay, Kyle and I will work on the details.
Okay, do you want me to, shall I just wait on the grazing allotment stuff?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I will wait and we will talk soon.
Okay.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Before you leave, Kyle. Kelly Canyon juniper removal.
Mm-hmm.
What happens, there are 2 or 3 wilderness study areas in that area.
That's correct.
Are they excluded, or can you set influence on them or not?
They are excluded. They are WSAs and we have, yes, you can do things in WSAs. We have a little bit of flexibility, but as of right now, no, we aren't going down that road.
Okay.
Or real quick, along the topic of WSAs, one of the things in our weed environmental assessment is we are analyzing, utilizing those chemicals in a wilderness study area. In under certain conditions. So that's a
those chemicals.
Yes, yep.
Good.
Anything else?
Okay.
Just, if I could just take the opportunity to clarify, because I was very concerned that I had made an error and not sent it, but I did verify in that the invitation to the key stakeholder meeting was sent to Tim's Crook County email as well as the info@crookcounty.gov, or
Yeah, nobody gets that email.
that's why I wanted to make sure I sent it to you as well. So it showed as sent on our end, but just wanted to clarify that it was sent out.
We forget.
Maybe we could check the connections and see if,
Yeah.
obviously you're not getting that.
Well, and for the forest, and I'll get you, if you wanna communicate directly with these folks, in addition to any other public, you need their personal emails.
Okay, we'll move on the agenda. Ms. Dybel?
Yes, over this way.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's great to see so many familiar, friendly faces over here. Before I get to this proposal for what I think could be an advantageous partnership between Extension and you all here in the county at large, I'd like to also take this opportunity to reintroduce myself, because the last time I was here was before I actually started in this position, and I didn't even know what the heck I was getting into. And so now I'm almost exactly 2 years in, and I've got programs to share and ideas for how I can be a value add to you all here and our community in Prineville at large. So since starting in my position, doing needs assessments, figuring out what the educational priorities of our region are, top 2 program focuses that I have right now. Number 1, first and foremost, Juniper outreach. I have officially taken Tim's crown, since he is now working for all of you, and I'm now doing Juniper ecology and management talks across the region. I'm actually gonna be running straight from here to Bend City Council, where I'm gonna be presenting to them to help inform their tree preservation codes. So I try to, in my Juniper presentations, I try to inspire a complex relationship with Juniper. I like to say that my relationship with Juniper is akin to a childhood friend that you've grown up with, and now you're adults, and sometimes that childhood friend who you love dearly does things that make you go, oh man, I'm so embarrassed to be associated with you right now, but I still love you at the end of the day. So that's the sort of attitude that I bring to our Juniper ecology and management talks. It's neither a cut them all down nor a leave them all alone relationship or conversation. So hope that I can be seen as a non-biased, reliable resource on Juniper management questions across our region. Secondarily, I am officially the why is my tree dying person of Central Oregon. All of my local partners are sending those questions that they're getting from individual landowners to me. So if folks have a ponderosa dying, larch is not looking good, juniper is not looking good, something about their landscape not looking super hot in the natural landscape of their property, folks are more than welcome to redirect those questions to me. And then of course, I am still the Forestry and Natural Resources Extension Agent. I'm a generalist by trade. So any questions you have that fall under that umbrella, please feel free to continue forwarding those to me. Happy to engage in all conversations about natural resources. So with that being said, taking a rewind back to basically a year ago today, I was the chair of the OCHO Collaborative, and I oversaw its dissolution. And as part of that dissolving of the collaborative, I proposed to the group as a means of, the biggest function of that collaborative when it dissolved was that it was a forum for shared learning on natural resource topics. And so I wanted to, in my capacity as extension forester, find an opportunity to continue that within our community here. And so with that being said, I would like to put together a biannual speaker series here in Prineville, thinking of hosting it at Abby's Pizza. If anyone else has another local business option that has a private room, please let me know. I'm happy to explore other venue options. And hoping to make this series about more than just public land issues. I want this to be conversations broaching both public and private land conversations across Crook County. And specifically, I want to emphasize this is going to be for Crook County by Crook County. And so that's why I'm here with you all today. A few months ago, I received $2,000 from the Central Oregon Forest Stewardship Foundation to help support these events.
And upon some reflection, instead of just diving straight into putting on events, we would like to utilize at least some of these funds to do a mail-out survey to landowners across Crook County to help inform us on what topics are most important to our people, and design programs and talks based on that. And so for you all here today as partners in the county at large, as partners, I would love to co-create that survey with you and all of the other partners. Forest Service, ODF, BLM, and I made presentations to the Soil and Water Conservation District on Monday, got presentation to the Watershed Council tomorrow. So I'm hoping that we'll have a good array of local partners who really care about our land and our people here to help design this survey. And part of my plug for you all is the survey doesn't just have to be pertaining to this series. If we have the funds to do a mail out survey and hear from the people, if you all have questions that you would like to ask, that you would feel would be advantageous to the work that you all do here, feel free to input that question into the survey and we can talk about how to best communicate that. Additionally, as partners, I would love some help with connecting landowners to these events, both as audience members, but also as participants. In Extension, we're really trying to push for more peer-to-peer learning opportunities. Folks tend to be more receptive to learning about, the trials and tribulations of going from the inception of a project to shovel ready and doing monitoring and all of that. Instead of hearing from us up high managers, hearing from your peers on what that process was like for you, among other topics, just an example. And I feel like you all here in this room, if not being the peers yourselves, you have connections to folks who would be really excellent resources for those conversations. And then finally, as being partners, I would love to have an endorsement from you all to be able to put the Crook County logo on our posters and other promotional materials. Because your name holds sway out here, and it would be really powerful to have you guys as partners when we're advertising those events. So with that being said, I'm not necessarily expecting action or answer today, but happy to answer any questions that you might have about this event and what partnership with NRAC and Extension for this might look like.
That was a lot you said. So it takes us a moment. So you say biannual.
Yes.
And so give me just, and maybe you all caught it, but I didn't exactly catch it. This forum would include a number of partners, including ourselves, as a learning opportunity for natural resource. Explain that again, just so I'm getting it all clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, I think that our most powerful tool as land managers and deciders on land management here in Crook County, our biggest tool is having a well-informed community on natural resource issues. And so I would like to have this forum or these events twice a year to help support that education and making sure that, again, the topics aren't just like me, extension forester from the university, making decisions on what we talk about. I want to make it rooted in what the needs of the people here specifically want to hear. Did that get to answering your question?
Yes.
Do you have any other motive besides the education?
No, certainly not. I guess if there.
Well, I guess maybe not motive, but hope.
Hope. Okay, yes, sure. I'll give a hope. I was the overseer and I will take responsibility for being the catalyst for why the Ocho Collaborative dissolved. And my true feeling is that instead of just being completely absent from some sort of place for community dialogue altogether in an educational manner, not just an advisory level, my hope is that this will maintain some sort of momentum of dialogue and community around natural resource issues. And so if and when the opportunity comes for a new Ocho Collaborative to be born, we'll be way more ready to meet the moment if we already have a collective group of engaged individuals in our community. And that was one of the, there's a lot of reasons why the Ocho Collaborative dissolved, but one of those reasons brought back to community membership and how much it had declined over the last few years. And I really believe that, having the Forest Service there, having industry there, having environmentalists there are great. But really with these collaboratives, I believe that they should be grassroots community based. And so I'm hoping that not only will this maintain more momentum, but hopefully can again create even more of an engaged base for when more decisive conversations in the realm of collaboratives strikes again.
Okay.
But nothing nefarious, I promise.
Anyone else have any questions?
I would say I like it.
Yes.
What else do you need from us at this point?
I think at this point, if you all feel comfortable with giving a vote of moving this forward, I think the next steps would be then bringing this proposal to a working session for the commissioners to then get full endorsement and partnership approval. But if that's not feasible today, I totally understand, and I want to be respectful of y'all's timelines and how this group functions.
Well, open for discussion with committee. Anyone have any initial feeling about yay or nay being involved with this endeavor?
I think it has potential to receive.
Good.
I was a member of the collaborative for many years. And it did a lot of good work. It also had a problem in that a lot of the contributors weren't locals. And had their own agendas and I won't argue, I had my own agenda too. But, no. But what I would like to see is, could you get us kind of a written proposal on this? Okay,
In the materials in the table outside.
You have it in front of you. I put one in front of everybody.
okay.
Oregon State University.
That's why, Cliff, because you didn't have it till now, I told Jenna, don't really expect a response today. I mean, you guys could all agree to, participate in the survey. You could agree to, those kind of things. The third ask that she asked about is the support, i.e. county logo on any advertising and whatnot. And that would require you guys to actually make a motion to propose to the county to do that, because you don't have the authority to use their logo, but you can make the recommendation to use their logo for this effort. So that would be sort of the big action item that, again, like Steve said, you could do something today, but if you wait till the next time, which next time will be May, to stew it, maybe ask Jenna to come back with a little more details. But that sheet in front of you sort of explains what she's up after.
And if I can speak to what I think your concern was there about making sure or ensuring that this is a local endeavor, that it's not just a central organ at large, everyone comes in and participates. Working title is on the ground by Crook County for Crook County. So that's a huge emphasis for this, and why, I'm the Central Oregon Extension Forester, but I want to do this series specifically for Crook County. And for folks who didn't already know this, before I was in this position, I lived in Prineville for 4 years, and I did my grad work in Ocho's and bartended at Crooked River Brewing when it existed. So I have
That says a lot right there. It definitely does. If you were in that bartending, everybody that walked in there.
So in any case, even though I, in order to live more centrally for my job, I now live in the Redmond area. The Prineville area in Crook County still is a special place in my heart. And so any way that I can specially curate educational outreach events for you all that is most helpful to you all, I'm all for it. Happy to be here for you.
So that's why I asked for discussion, if there's any more, noted.
Well, I would like to say something.
Let's go ahead.
I think having an opportunity, and it kind of falls back to this same thing that we were talking about earlier, when stakeholders and that kind of thing, to get people in the same room, to have conversation on natural resources topics, and to get them in there regularly is so important. That's why I feel like this group is an important avenue for people to talk about things that are going on public land, and to talk about topics that come up. Virtual fencing, all kinds of new technology, things that come up. And when you have people in the same room developing a relationship, when hard decisions come to be made, then those relationships help. So I would say that this would be a good thing, and I would hope that we could sooner than later, perhaps today, then make a motion to ask the county commissioners to put their logo on an endeavor that would be a grassroots effort for land, natural resource education and forum, such as this.
And
Is that a motion?
following up on what you're saying, I think the fact that our community is growing and we're getting people who are totally new to this kind of environment, I think there's a potential for real outreach and helping them understand why we do what we do and
Right.
work it together.
And one of my bigger concerns when it comes to natural resources is this fast moving, well, I kind of phrased this just right. I'm concerned that NEPA is on a move to exclude the public. And in that, while I understand that we're needing to get a lot of things done that we haven't gotten done in the past, and I'm all for that, I'm also concerned that once these things get done, excluding the public will not be a good thing. And I appreciate the local efforts that everyone is making to make sure that the public is in it when those things come to a head and they're wanting to move fast on other projects. This kind of thing will be what's important, the development of those relationships.
I think you're right.
I agree.
So I heard a motion. Is your motion all encompassing that we participate?
And we participate and also ask the county to put
As well as us, the
the
county.
logo.
I'll second
Okay, did you get that, Tim? Yep. Okay, any further discussion?
Do you think in that we would have a subcommittee that helped work on the survey questions? That first part of the ask, where would we do that part of the work?
We would do that here in this committee. I would establish a subcommittee more than likely.
And likely what would happen after that is, once you as a subcommittee create the questions you want to see in that survey, we'd probably select a representative to then join in on like a full partner co-creation of the survey with Soil and Water Conservation District, Watershed Council, and all of those folks. Just want to make sure we mesh it all together seamlessly.
And just remember, we haven't used subcommittees in a while, that subcommittees are subject to public meeting rules, and so all those meetings that be advertised and public able to attend, and they don't have to participate, but they have to be able to attend and listen, so.
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Right?
No.
Bill?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So who will draft, you didn't say who's going to draft the request to county commission, so can we
Right.
depend on Tim for that? You
Yep.
got that?
Got it.
Okay.
Just let me know which working session to be at and I'll be there.
It'll be in April.
Can do. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, Jenna.
Okay, we'll go to BLM implementation of vacant allotment review.
Kevin's got this.
Kevin's got that one, huh?
I guess.
Okay.
So the request came from Tim for us to present after he met with some folks in DC on our grazing management program right now, specifically our vacant allotments.
Yeah,
And
can I give a little
yeah,
background?
please do. Yeah.
So President Trump had, through one of his efforts to have a positive impact, what he thinks on the beef cattle industry, has directed his agencies to do whatever they can to help improve or increase cattle numbers in the US of A. And so from the standpoint of our public land management agencies, they can't influence markets, they can influence other kind of things. What they can or can't do is make forage available for grazing. And so both agencies, in this case through USDA and USDI, have been, my understanding, directed to identify all vacant allotments, which they have jurisdiction over, and to move forward through the appropriate NEPA and other kind of processes for making those allotments available for grazing once again. So I came home and said to both Forest Service and BLM, where are you at in that process? And that's what generated these two topics here today, to sort of bring you up to date on what's going on.
Yeah, thanks for that intro. So for BLM right now, so we had like a big data call or like a report out that came on of all of our vacant allotments currently across the Prineville district. And so currently I have about 95 vacant allotments. And that's over 110,000 acres of BLM managed lands. I think that might include some private lands too, because our allotments cover both private and BLM. Just the boundaries. For Crook County specifically, we currently have 4 vacant allotments, covering about 120 AUMs or 1,100 acres. And so those allotments are the Brown allotment, Grizzly Mountain, Meisner, and Riverside South. Combined total of all those allotments is 1,096 acres and 121 AUMs currently. So there's a lot of reasons why these allotments might be vacant. One could be there's a permit relinquished and it was never replaced with a new permittee. There's something on the landscape where there's no fencing in place or infrastructure to actually run cattle on there because there's no controls in place for improvements like that. Either limited or no grazing's happening, or there's been some boundary or administrative issues that need to be resolved. 1, 2 is like some of these allotments, maybe they had a previous base landowner or preference owner, right? And then they sold the property. The new owners didn't realize they have, base property or preference for the grazing allotment, and then they didn't request a transfer or to get the permit itself. And so part of our process will be finding out who those owners are, seeing if they're still interested in grazing, and then if not, offering those grazing allotments to someone else who might be interested. And that might mean changing the base property ownership to a different address. So right now, these vacant allotments are important. However, we also know that our active grazing allotments are also important. And we also know that those permits do expire or they have expiration dates. So our emphasis right now is continuing to work on permit renewals across the district. Right now, the Shutesfield office is working primarily in the Pine, where we have about 5 vacant or not vacant allotments, but 5 allotments that we're working on grazing permit renewals and 1 vacant allotment that we're working on potentially offering for grazing in the future. I think Central Oregon Field Office, same situation, working on renewals of existing permits. And then once we have a good handle on that, then we can start pivoting to our vacant allotment interests and such. So yeah, part of that process when we do get there for vacant allotments will be verifying the base property owners, conducting field inspections, like are these allotments really in the shape for grazing again? What will it take to get them to that condition? Updating our administrative records. Some of these allotments might just be closed out, right? And so we just need to do some cleanup, take these allotments off our radar because they're either closed or no longer in use or can be used, given our resource management plan decisions in the past or other actions that have happened. Doing our land health assessments, that's gonna be the biggest lift for these, because a lot of them haven't had land health assessments on them for forever or for, 10, 20 years. And so that's gonna be the biggest lift, because it does require data collection over multiple years and getting some trends. And so that's gonna be the hardest part, I think, in this process, and prioritizing the. And then finally, just going out and advertising these things, right? Bringing them up, bringing them back into function, into work as places where cattle can graze and our livestock operators can graze their cattle and make a profit. So those are kind of our next process steps when we can get there. There are some updates coming to our grazing program. One is a new grazing rule that's slated to come out, sure yet, but we've been told this year. So that's
We were told April.
we were told April. We were told January.
Now 2027.
But now 2027. So I don't know when we're gonna hit that, but we're eager to see what it has to say and how it's gonna impact our management strategies, but also improve our ability to serve our livestock operators here in Crook County, but then also elsewhere across the state.
So how is that being created?
The rule?
I shouldn't have asked, I'm sorry.
I'm not entirely sure how that rule is being created. I believe it's happening at our HQ, our headquarters out of DC, along with collaboration from, I'm sure, stakeholders at some level. I can't really say though, but. Because
BLM has been working on an updated grazing rule for multiple years. It just, like I said, we were told that it was gonna come out in April, so I'm kind of surprised. Guess they didn't tell us April of 26. Maybe that was the lack of detail, but and then for Jacob, we heard that the forest will be followed with a new grazing rule as soon as the BLM gets theirs done, but yeah. It'll probably use your structure is what we were told.
So if Oregon passes this deal where you can't butcher a cow or kill a deer or catch a fish, then what's that gonna do to the grazing thing?
A lot of people in jail.
Yeah, what the heck?
Oh,
yes.
So that's up.
An animal eating is okay, it's
Yeah.
just, you can't kill the animal.
Well, as farmers, we'd have to haul them to Idaho, get them butchered over there, then bring them back.
Yeah,
That's what they do, so,
but you can still graze, you just,
yeah,
cause that's a kind thing to do.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, our administrative process, our mission's not gonna change regardless of what a state law says, right? Like, we're still gonna graze cattle, we're still gonna open up lands for grazing.
There just may be no cows to graze, so.
Maybe we'll be horses.
I didn't catch all your numbers, you were rattling them off too fast.
Very sorry.
But I did get 95 vacant allotments.
It's in your hand.
121 AUMs and 1,100 acres.
95 vacant allotments across the Prineville district. So that's across the 16 counties, well, 12 counties.
That's Eastern Oregon, essentially.
That's Central Oregon, Eastern Oregon, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's the Prineville district, 95 allotments on the Prineville district,
Okay.
which is a little over 1 million odd acres.
1.26 something, yeah.
Over like a.
So it's not
60
Vale, it's not Lakeview, it's not Baker, it's
This is Prineville specific.
Prineville.
Okay.
So Vale, Burns, they all have their own numbers.
Now, BLM law used to allow animals with a different brand to be grazed on the BLM allotment. In other words, you could rent out your allotment and you didn't have to be the owner of the allotment.
Correct. Yeah, there's leases, right?
Yeah.
And so how much, cause that can knock down a lot of it, at least on a temporary basis. I don't know, it may be a year-to-year basis, but But the thing is how much investment is there gonna have to be in these allotments to make them grazeable?
Yeah, that's the big ticket item there. For instance, Kellum's allotment, which is in the Pine, is currently vacant. We're looking to reopen it. It has no fencing, so we'd have to get all the fencing up before we can release cows on there. And I think that fencing requirement falls on BLM. So, but there's a big contract there, build out fencing, so that could be a couple of years before we can even let cows out on the ground. So you raise a good point. The cost of getting the infrastructure in place is gonna be a driving factor for getting operators on the ground.
So was there any money put to this?
Pardon?
Well, in this,
Yeah, so, yeah, of course,
unfunded
we
mandate.
kind of heard a different story. The story that I got was this is an emphasis area to repopulate these allotments. That no, there is no money yet, but money associated with a lot of these activities could be gathered up a whole lot different, like someone who wanted to maybe look at using an allotment. You can subcontract the NEPA required to get that work done. It doesn't have to rely on agency personnel to do it. You have to follow their rules. They have to finally approve it, but you can hire a third party to do. I guess if there was a really super productive allotment that had lots of AUMs associated with it and I wanted to use it, maybe I would propose that I build the fence. If virtual fencing is becoming more and more popular with option within BLM, maybe I only have to worry about the boundary fence actually being built and all the internal fences are handled through the virtual fence technology. So I think there, is opportunity here. Again, the purpose was to repopulate these allotments. And some have been permanently closed and I'm still trying to track down how the executive orders defined vacant. Because administratively closed to some means it's permanently closed. We didn't even bother to look at it. Where others like, other allotments were just sort of drifted away because the current permittee, for a variety of reasons, like you said, land sales, farm sales, the transfer didn't occur. So that sometimes that information is in the files and sometimes that information's not in the files. So, but my interest in this is that, again, local permittees hopefully will be given the option when we got to step 4, advertising availability. If you're an adjoining permittee and adjoining neighbor with qualifying base, that you sort of have first opportunities, that you don't look at somebody in Lake County to issue a permit that's in Sherman County kind of thing, that the local folks kind of have the first options of filling some of these vacancies. So none of that priority stuff has yet been developed that I know of, but that's kind of where you guys kind of come in as this process moves forward. Perhaps you can make some of those kind of recommendations that how the agencies move forward once they've identified them and we're ready to start populating and how they get populated. So
you bring up a good point, for the funding aspect of it. I think we have a foundation for American Public Lands, their BLM's new partnership, for getting grants funded or people's work funded so they can implement work. Recently they flew a funding opportunity for virtual fencing, right? And they're contributing up to $250,000, as long as there's a partner involved for virtual fencing. So there's gonna be avenues and opportunities for funding that operators can take along with partners to get some of the infrastructure on the ground needed via virtual fencing in this case.
what I might suggest is let's let Jacob talk about the Forest Service side of this equation and
Hey,
stuff.
can I get a question?
He's got a question.
First?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. My hand's getting tired.
Yeah.
you talked about you're trying to deal with existing permittees right now. What's the time frame that it takes you to do an existing permittee? Because I have an example. My family left our grazing permit on Grizzly. It went back in 91. I didn't come back until 2010. In 2011, I approached the BLM trying to get those grazing rights back. And I sit here today, still not with those grazing rights. So what's your time frame? And explain that to me very precisely.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know your case specifically. We'll have to follow up with the or the range management specialist, and look at your case file and see where we're at.
Sam knows.
That's understand. Who's that?
Sam knows who's coming.
Okay.
October Monday.
Okay. But really, yeah, the timelines really comes down to is our NEPA process. What we're finding is it's been taking us quite a while to get our grazing permit renewals done. And so part of what we're trying to do now.
10-day NEPA process doesn't work for grazing?
So
just a question.
no, I get it. No, so I was gonna bring that up. So right now Kyle is gonna be initiating a process similar to the NEPA and a weed for a grazing permit renewal on the McDonald's Ferry and 30 Mile River, or 30 miles, allotments, which are along the John Day River. And he can explain that process a little bit better, but really we're seeing in the past, right, our NEPA process is taking a long time to get to a decision on our grazing permit renewals. So we're trying to improve that process now through using the shorter or more intensive NEPA process where we're getting folks in the room together, having some really strong deadlines that we're going to be meeting, along with having good facilitation so the conversations and actions are happening. So we can come to a decision quicker, get those NEPA documents out faster. I don't have specific timelines, but I could say, at least for the Line project, we've been actually working on since 2019, right? So that's a long time of going back and forth, coming up with those actions, developing the NEPA, going to the environmental or the ESA and Endangered Species Act component requirements. So we're all case by case, but really what we're seeing is what we've done in the past, really taking a long time. What we want to do in the future is really think a better streamlined approach. So we're meeting our administration priorities, sharing with livestock operators, keeping them in operation so there's not lags or gaps in when they can be out there, the permits expiring. So yeah, if Kyle, you want to chime in?
I just add on to your perspective, right? I believe your allotment was officially vacant. And so that's all part of this and getting out of the unvacant status when we've got all these other priorities. That's why, one of the reasons why we're being directed to address vacant allotments, which is great. I think Sam and Kevin need to talk and then talk with you. That would be a fantastic thing.
That'd be great.
Yeah. One thing I want to add, I brought this up last time in January is that over 1/3 of all BLM allotments are on the Prineville district. That's across the west.
Wow.
There's over 500, about 528, right? Of all BLM allotments. Unfortunately, many of them are like a 20 inside of a big chunk or a 40 surrounded by 6 different landowners. So we're not special. We're just stuck with this issue of having some big allotments and some little tiny ones. And so some on this list are those little 40s or 20s that have gone vacant for, pick your reason. And is it really worth the time and effort that has to, because whether it's 1,000 acres or 40 acres from a process piece, it's the same process. So we're gonna look at the big chunks first. Hopefully by 2027, sometime in April, whatever April it is, maybe we'll have some better tools to deal with this. That's our hope. Because right now it is a very important. And folks like you are stuck with the short stick.
Yeah, because I surround you on 3 sides.
Yep.
But your fire trap is gonna burn my grass.
That's the other piece of it, yes.
And, all we have to do is put a cow in there.
2.
Yeah. Nice.
Another incentive,
Mike,
I'm sorry, Mike.
Kyle, I was wondering if there's not a way that in some of these situations like John's talking about, that you do maybe, I mean, his family's great but it's been vacant for 10 years, you say now?
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, so Seems like there'd be an opportunity to say, well, let's see if we can't do a temporary non-renewable on this thing until we can get this thing completed. Because the evidence probably is on the ground that it was well taken care of before, with a lot of assurance that would be now. And that will give you time to do that, as opposed to having to wait to go do all the other.
Right, and so our John Day Resource Management Plan, which was done in 2015, which is pretty much the entire John Day Basin, is specific in allowing for those temporary, non-removable, 1 year at a time things.
Yeah.
Upper Deschutes RMP is even older than 1989, I think.
No, Upper Deschutes,
The other one is, Brothers Lapine.
Brothers Lapine.
And I don't know what the language is in those, but I know John Day RMP allows for that. I don't know about
Yeah,
that.
I would have to go back and check and see what our RP allows.
But you're right.
These kinds of allotments, nobody else really use the product, you know, so it'd be difficult with private land situations.
The only water.
Water, yeah. So, it just seems like if you're trying to follow an executive order that's telling you to do things differently, we'll do things differently.
Yeah, I agree, as long as I don't go to jail or Kevin goes to jail.
Don't worry about that.
Don't piss off
Yeah,
the president.
and another thing I could say for, especially for my side, on, you know, for east of Prineville, one of the things about vacant allotments, as properties get bought up by groups or people with a lot of money who just want a place to hunt, you know, we're talking 25,000 acres and they just want a place to hunt, they certainly aren't gonna care about the allotment of that 800,000 acres, whatever's inside. They don't care. They aren't gonna pay a penny because, well, we get it anyway. And so we see that more and more as those big ranches get sold to somebody who it doesn't care about. Great. And I don't know how to authorize that to somebody else that's surrounded by.
Yeah, the trouble with that thinking, and something that you guys need to remember too, is that when you go non-use on an allotment, you don't increase the wildlife, you decrease the wildlife. And I mean, I've seen it anecdotally in several places, but one particular lease we had hadn't been grazed for 10 years. And for the first year and a half, all we saw on 30,000 acres was 3 antelope and 1 deer. We didn't even see Tweety birds. And after grazing it for a couple of years, the numbers started increasing up to the point to where we had 2 full herds, 2 separate herds of antelope.
And Tweety birds?
A good herd of elk and mule deer, staying there. Not just pass, some of them passed through, but a lot of them were staying there, residing there rather than just making a quick path through it.
Sometimes I wonder how we survived without cattle before.
You bring up a good point about non-use, right? Like, we have a history of a lot of permittees or groups choosing non-use, right, and requesting non-use. So we're doing a better job now of like working down and and scrutinizing these non-use requests, because our goal is to make sure that the forage is getting eaten, right? And so even if we can allow for 3 years of non-use, but we need to be able to show, folks need to be able to show that they're gonna be putting those grazing allotments to use of that.
I have to believe I'm trying to get a set of new teeth, store-bought teeth.
Yes.
Take care.
I might.
Is there any exemption or area that you could use the allotment for fire prevention under the guise of fire prevention for grazing it off?
Fuels reduction.
Yeah,
Like a field,
You
like
can
take
pay
care
them
of like.
to graze it.
like in John,
Like
like his case, I mean, if it starts on fire, the whole grizzly's going.
Right.
So is there any temporary way to go in under the guise of fuel reduction for health and public safety?
So some of the new fuels processes are getting there. It's tough to get past the grazing regs because the grazing regs ruled BLM's world since before BLM, right? And so the whole idea of, oh, we're grading just for fuels, not because somebody really needs to grade, it's tough. But we're getting there. We think about it.
Yeah.
Our fuels folks in our office think about it all the time.
Mhm.
But targeted grazing we're talking about isn't just to try to knock down those annuals first thing so the perennials have a chance. It's also, we get them knocked down, our fuels will go.
And that was in the original.
Yes, yeah,
Mandate.
so, yes, it is something that we want to do. And as our new regs move forward, I believe it will allow us to do that much simpler.
Yeah, but we're still talking a lot of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Time is of the essence when a fuel load is sitting there and
Mhm.
public health and safety. I mean, is there anything, Tim, that the county could do with a letter that says this is what they want to do, is use cows to graze it off, or sheep, or goats, or whatever?
Well, yeah, you can write the letter, but the BLM still has its rules and regs and you can't,
There's nothing that.
well,
So essentially, you guys need to come up with the ideas so that we can support it, and maybe that was.
Yeah, and I could say that it's not fire specifically related, but we are trying to use grazing more as a tool to help kick back or battle some of our green canary grass issues, specifically in the pine again. But I know it's not Crook, but we're trying to use grazing as more of a tool, right, to help improve the landscape and improve the health of like our waterways and such. And so that fits right within the fire fuel concern and how do we kick back, how do we cut back these fine fuels from the landscape. But yeah, we got our rules and regulations that we will follow, but we're trying to be adaptive in using these new strategies in line with our existing regs.
Do these allotments have a term, like a certain number of years?
Yeah, so like a grazing permit is typically a 10-year term before it needs to be renewed. It's because if they're vacant, they don't have a permit on them right now, so we want to get a new permit in place to use that as allotments again. The part of the process there is a land health assessment, which is a lengthy process in itself, so that might take that's probably what's going to contribute for the longer term side of things of getting those allotments back into play. And so we're considering some, I guess, innovative ideas, got to get them run by our solicitors and such, but how do we get through that land health assessment process quicker?
Can that be done by a third party?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, we did two, on my office in the last year.
So we're kind of like, one idea is like, okay, can we look back and see what land health assessments were done in the past on these vacant allotments? Can we just reference those older land health assessments and use them for now? If there hasn't been any grazing, then those land health assessments last done. So we're trying to play with those kind of ideas of streamlining the process.
Can the county extension or natural resource? I would say in a sorry, anyway, can they do them?
we don't have any money to do them.
Well, but can they do them if the landowner
Again,
pays
it
for them?
still takes money to get them done. You gotta pay for the specialists to hire, you gotta have archaeologists, you gotta have biologists, you gotta have all the things that, GIS capabilities.
But do you have those people if somebody wants to pay for that? No.
BLM has the staff, right? We have the resource specialists that would do that work. The grazing doesn't have like a cost recovery component or like a processing fee, so all that's done in-house with federal funds.
And the third parties that you talked about, were they contractors that had all of those specialists?
They were landowners who contracted that work out to our specifications, and then we still reviewed the land health assessment.
So there's contractors out.
There are private consultants that can do the work.
Yeah, and there is, it's been pretty public. There is a test case going on in Burns, I believe it's Burns, large, process, really focused on utilizing remote sensing data to do those land health assessments, which is spot checks. And, you know, if that's successful, because they've done them in different places around the west, if those continue to be successful, that be maybe that next step where you're analyzing remote sensing rather than being out on the ground and, you know, 5 years worth of data, you've got it all right there in the computer.
And those would be like watershed level assessments that are done versus allotment specific.
Okay, we're gonna have to move along on the agenda if we're gonna get everybody in. Thank
I was
you.
just gonna say, Tim, you don't have to worry about pulling up any presentation, I'll just share.
I got it.
Yeah, no, we got 12 minutes left of this meeting. If you don't know who I am, Jacob Young, Range Program Manager
Take the time you need.
on NOCHCO.
Be fast.
In the shoots, I would do that. So I would just say, we're a little better off than the BLM because we don't have a lot of those small parcels, but we have 66 active allotments on the forest and the grassland. We have 4 vacant allotments, 3 of them kind of fit the same qualities of the BLM. 40-acre piece, a 160-acre piece that's surrounded by private. Those are vacant. The only vacant allotment we have like in the actual forest is the Rock Creek allotment, which is just east of the 12 road, south of Buck Point. Remember that area? It's actually correct, but otherwise we have 42 grazing permittees that actively graze on the forest. Tim probably answered most of the questions that you would have for me. I don't need to belabor this issue. If you have something specific that might be related to the forest or the Crook River National Grassland, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you, but hold it up anyway. Run through it. You can just go to the next. It just has like numbers, right? So here's grassland. We don't have any vacant allotments because we only technically have 1 permittee. It's a grazing association on the grassland. They can graze all of these closed allotments.
Do you know if they're fully utilizing all their permitted AUMs?
That's a good question. I can tell you for sure, no. They're not fully using them, but all of these allotments get used. All the ones that are being used. They may not be used to the full extent every year.
So if they're members, because they're a grazing association, like you said, wanted to increase herd numbers, there's flexibility within their permit.
Yeah, because they're 1 permittee, they could
Right.
work amongst themselves to kind of fill in behind.
Yeah.
They can do that.
Okay.
So main body of the forest, you look really large, but there's a 160, there's a 40, there's a 120. Those are the 3 vacant allotments that kind of sit out there, and then Rock Creek is our actual kind of vacant allotment that we just need NEPA. We've been hoping to do NEPA on that allotment since I've been here. We have permittees, would love to graze it. I think this might be our opportunity, so I'm actually really excited about that. Those are just the numbers for the forest. Do you care how many acres or vacant acres that have been used? Over 90% of the forest is actively grazed. 75%-ish of the grassland is grazed. We're gonna talk about fires. I don't know if you guys really care about that or not, but we have had a lot of fires, so we haven't had permittees on the forest. Crazy Creek, Rare Bridge fires, Wiley Flat from 24, a lot of those have been rested. They were rested in 25. Most of them will be rested again in 26. A couple of pastures are gonna be allowed to be grazed based on the assessments that the resource specialist did this last year. You can just skip that. The only other thing really is just how to get these permittees back out on the forest or the grassland. And seeking a lot of funds for that. The Red Ridge, we have the disaster relief funds that we did get on the forest. So we're working on an agreement with the South Fork John Day Watershed Council to get that work done. Fences reconstructed, water developments fixed.
all the other fires, we only have our, burn area response funds or rehabilitation funds. We keep being told we're gonna find out what we own. We're being told now that we'll find out at the end of this month if we're gonna get money, but we have, we've requested 1 point, I can't remember, 3. I have it in front of me somewhere in one of my papers. 1.3 or 1.2. I can read it. A little over $1 million that we've asked for to either rebuild fences, do seedings, do a lot of work out there to, help cover the ground after.
Do they still come and rob those funds every time?
They just haven't given them out.
Yes,
So,
rob them. Still.
yeah, but it's honestly, I mean, we're pretty much being told you're gonna get funds. Just let us figure out how much you're gonna get and we'll go from there. So we've been working with Crook County Soil Water Conservation District to get an agreement to get some of that work done as well. When we have the contract that's already been on the Crazy Creek Fire. So we're excited about that. Any questions for me specifically?
Yeah, so just kind of calling in on what Jacob said, so, you know, for the fences and stuff, those numbers, you know, maybe are a little bit lower, but for the Crazy Fire alone, we've asked for $2.3 million. For the fires on Lookout Mountain and grasslands, we've asked for just over $1 million. And we got 3.1 for rail, and we already have 1.7 for Crazy. It's in the contract for fences, so we've asked, we've done the work, we're a year behind where we're supposed to be, you know, and we're frantically trying to get the funds to get these fences, so we get folks back out there.
Yep. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah. I have the numbers right here.
And you got glasses on, I don't. You don't have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have Mr. Jack, will give us a report on the mule deer running.
All right, I'll be fast too. I do have a really short presentation. Tim will cue that up. Thank Tim for inviting me. Just so everybody knows, Greg Jackal, I'm the district wildlife biologist here for ODFW. Glad to be back. I was gone for about 1.5 years doing sage grouse stuff, and now I'm back. So, and I wanted to, I gave this talk at OHA about a month ago, and I thought about the audience, and some of you all haven't been involved in this, so I kind of wanted to step back a little bit and give kind of a historical reason for why we're doing this, because that's one of the questions is, why are you changing all of our hunt units? And so, I listened to a podcast where one of our wildlife biologists was talking about back in the 40s or 50s, we ear tagged a bunch of bucks in the Fort Rock unit, which is down south of Burns or south of Bend. And those bucks went up to summer and they got shot in 9 different wildlife management units. And so that's kind of the concept a little bit that we're looking at. But you go to the next slide, Tim. One more. So basically this started in 2015, actually started a little bit earlier, but we put a bunch of GPS collars on mule deer does. And our goal was to delineate herd ranges and seasonal herd ranges. So winter ranges to summer ranges, look at survival and all of this stuff in between. So next slide. This is a horrible map. It doesn't show Oregon, but as you guys all know, this is Eastern Oregon. Cascades are right here. So like I said, 2005 to 11, we did the South Central Mule Deer study. These are all dots, are all collared mule deer. And then from 2015 to 2019, we filled in the rest of Eastern Oregon. So that's kind of basically the data gathering that brings us to what I'm going to talk about in the kind of the punchline. So next slide. This is kind of a cool video showing you guys how we did that. If you can get that working, Tim, you can. This just have to. Might take a little bit of time, but if not, we can just keep going. So we developed our mule deer plan. That video is just going to show us putting a net gunning mule deer out of the helicopter.
On that previous map, what was the gray areas and what were?
Winter range. That's the mapped winter range.
Okay.
So good question. So we adopted our plan in 2024 a few years ago, And now we're kind of implementing it with these new changes. So next slide. Oh, great.
Play the video somewhere.
Oh, it probably is playing the video somewhere. Basically, like, we're going from the old WMUs, the wildlife management units, which were done in the 50s, and they're, pretty much, roads and highways and rivers, geographical things that wasn't really biological related. Now we're trying to implement that to the herd range of the species. So taking into account where those mule deer winter and where they summer, for the most part, it's not going to be perfect because there's going to be some interchange. The big thing about Crook County is the Ochoco unit, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of, is now part of 3 different herd ranges. So that's pretty uncommon for the rest of Eastern Oregon, taking one management unit and now it's part of 3 different herd ranges. So if you hunt the Ochoco unit, you really need to know where you hunt, because when you apply May 15th, you need to know which one of those areas to apply for. So it's a big deal. And I was telling the guys at OHA that I was coming out of the woods last year during deer season and ran into some buddies of mine from college and met them at the Dairy Queen in town here. And I'm like, hey, what are you guys up to? They didn't harvest anything. And so we're talking, and I'm like, what are you guys going to put in for next year? And they had no idea that we changed this. So I think our agency we try to do a good job of alerting the public, but unless you're like in an organization like OHA, you're not going to know until May 15th, and then it's all different. So hopefully you guys can get the word out. Yeah, perfect. So the changes are shown on this. I think if you want to go to that website, Tim, that might be the best. I apologize, kind of scattered presentation and relying on Tim's expertise, but we do have
It's all right. Yeah, we can go to regular brain, district together.
So,
Came out the way it wasn't intended.
yeah, it came out wrong. But the best way to do it, and again, I know a lot of us aren't tech savvy, but if you can grab your 14-year-old nephew or son and have them go onto the website, you can zoom in and be able to see and basically know where your family's historically hunted and say, okay, that's part of the Crooked River hunt, or it's part of the Painted Hills hunt. So the Crooked River hunt takes into account most of the southern Ochocos and the Maori and some of the Silvies. And then so this is the interactive map that we have. And so you have Painted Hills and Crooked River, and then Aldrich, which includes some of the Murders Creek. And that's all the old, and as you zoom in, it'll show you the old wildlife management units. There you go. So
And
again,
that's on the website?
it's on our website. I can get you guys a link. See how the Ochoco is part of 3 different herd ranges. The old Ochoco unit, and it's still gonna be the Ochoco for elk, so it's gonna be confusing. That's why we did change the names. So yeah, for everybody, Prime goes here, Highway 26 goes out here. So the 42 road is the dividing line for these 2 herd ranges. And then the 12 and the 30. And so a lot of that stuff, there used to be, Black Canyon Wilderness. So it's a big change. And, folks need to kind of know about it if they're hunting deer. We're trying to get the word out, but it's going to be a little bit of a learning process, and preference points, all that stuff is going to be different. So
people with preference points now have lost everything?
no, they're still staying the same. We just don't know how the trends will be in people applying.
Okay.
So, for example, Ochoco unit, we used to issue, and we still issue a fair amount of tags in these 2. But now if people want to hunt that area, that's gonna be tough, because that's like a 5-point draw. And if you're used to hunting there, it's gonna take a lot longer to draw that than if we're in the old Ochoco unit. So,
and what's going on with landowner?
Landowner preference will be the same, other than it's same with the fact that we've limited landowners when the population's struggling. So,
Well, you've done that
yeah.
last 5 years anyway, so.
Yeah. Again, this is just a different way to manage the species. Hopefully, and I don't need to tell a lot of people in this room that the mule deer are suffering in Eastern Oregon. They're even suffering in the western states. But hopefully this will allow us to identify some targeted things. I mean, I've been working on mule deer for 20 years with the Mule Deer Initiative in John Day, and then coming over here in the Maoris. Their species is struggling. So between everything that kills mule deer, drought, habitat, poaching, it's disease. There's predation. I mean, there's multiple things that affect the species, and the fires may help the species a little bit, that reset the food that they like to eat, but at the same time, it may hinder them too because it's real open in some of those areas, not a lot of cover. So
So how about the city of Prineville? Is it down here on Southwest Fifth Street? I see 16 head.
yeah,
Then I go up in Ocean Cove Avenue
Yeah.
and I see 12 head. So is that something you guys regulate?
no, we don't, but yeah, they would be in the Crooked River Hunt area.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
They're always there during hunting season
Yeah.
when everybody's out.
But I'm welcome to come back here and do some other talks about, specific species stuff too, and sage grouse. I did want to just point out, update wise for ODFW, we're going to be flying the Polina pack this coming up here in a few weeks. So we're going to be flying that for sage grouse. We generally, and it's from the BLM giving us some money to do that. And so we haven't done that since 2013. And so it's a good way for us to kind of look for new leks and new sage grouse. There's been a lot of research done out there with Oregon State University. And so it's just kind of combining that, looking for new leks. There's been a ton of money spent out there doing juniper treatments. Since 2015, it's been thousands and thousands of acres between the NRCS, the BLM, and private. I mean, it's pretty cool to look at that. And so hopefully what we'll do is find some sage grouse that have responded to those treatments in areas and find new leks. So maybe that'll be a good topic in the summer or fall.
Glad you're back, Greg.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be back. Anything else? Usually wildlife management's a little more controversial than grazing.
I just wanna double check, no change to the elk.
Not yet, but we are doing similar things for elk. We've got a bunch of collars on elk, and it'll be probably five years, but we're looking at their behavior now. Elk are a lot different species wise than mule deer. They're, you probably know, mule deer, those does will go to their same winter range and then go to the same summer range, and they'll use pretty much the same ridge lines. It's kind of cool to look at. And that's why we're realizing migrations and the secretarial order years ago where it looked at protecting migration pathways. Elk are a little different, they're disturbed, they like food, they get disturbed, they move, they get hunted. So their pathways, their herd ranges might be a lot bigger.
They still have winter pathways,
They do.
or at least used to when we had big herds.
Yeah, so stay tuned on that, but right now the elk units are staying the same and they're the same names. That's why we had to change the name for the mule deer units to not confuse people and add to enforcement challenges. So.
Thank you, Greg.
Well, I don't want to lose I made, I don't know whether it was official motion or not, but the request that the county send a letter about a forest plan revision. How's the best way to do that? Do we draft a letter and ask
You can draft a draft letter for them to adopt and send to the region.
okay. I'm happy to do that, and then do we bring it in April? I'm sorry, because we're not having one in April, right? We're having a field trip.
Have to be in May.
If you would like to draft one and bring it and propose it for the group's adoption.
Okay, I'll do it that way then.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And again, anybody who's got a topic like that you want to bring before the group, don't ever hesitate to do such.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of fell under good of the order, so we'll continue with good of the order. Anybody have anything else for good of the order?
John could make an announcement.
On April 11th, there's going to be a curtain burner come out to our place, and it's open to the public. It's gonna be extension fire gods or goddesses are going to do that they're gonna make a program and part of it's on our ranch. And so, it's a.
And I have flyers for it.
Why am I talking here?
You know, we didn't plan this, but I had a feeling you might be here.
Okay. And when they did a curtain burner up on Jimmy Woods' place, early last fall, and several, agency people and a few of the public came in. It's more, I think, you're not gonna get a lot of great juniper acres done, but it's another avenue and go from. You're all welcome to come. It'll be up at our corral, about 11 miles out, flying a highway. Everybody that's gone out and flying a highway, they're probably gonna been there since 1800s.
April 11th.
Yep.
So on the same topic, I sent you an email yesterday about a similar demo with wildfire mitigation as the theme purpose at Brasada Ranch next Tuesday. If that day or topic interests you, you do need to pre-register to let them know you're coming. But that's another opportunity to see this technology in action, so.
So is that what they're using on the big piles up there of the?
I don't know what they're gonna use on those big piles. As my understanding as of today, they have yet to obtain their air quality permit, which in the case of those big piles at the airport, because that's gonna be industrial use, that falls under a whole different classification of burning, and those folks need to get DEQ permits before they light those piles on fire.
So they've already burned a bunch of it. Some of it's kind of this process and some of it they lit and burned.
Yeah, well, they had some accidental fires.
Oh, okay.
Late summer, early fall.
I see, okay.
I don't think those were intentionally lit. Unless you know differently, Frank.
Yeah, well, I probably do.
We'll probably light fire.
He probably does, yeah, right.
Darn, that's just what needs to happen.
But they don't fall under the same rules as landowners or the BLM doing pile burning for range restoration. That's considered an industrial use and burning industrial waste. Yeah, DQ has a whole different set of rules for them.
Yeah.
Anyone else have something that are good of the order?
Again, just a reminder, there won't be an April meeting on the second Wednesday of the month. You'll have the opportunity to go on the Camp Creek Community Allotment Tour. And then we will meet in May. One of the agenda items will be the Deschutes Land Trust, which is a newer property owner out the Madras Highway. They'd like to come and talk about that project, plus maybe some other opportunities in Crook County, so. Okay, they'll be on the agenda.
Okay, we'll go to committee member updates. Anybody have an update they want to provide? Hearing none. Is there any further public comment?
I know it's past her bedtime, but considering he just said there's no April meeting, I have a question for the Forest Service right now. Don't care who. Building on what Kim said about public exclusion of NEPA process. I'm gonna have to read this because it's long. Concerning project level pre-decisional administrative review process. Y'all know what that is, right? There was a comment period that ended on the 9th of this month. I found out about it as a citizen on the 9th of this month. So there wasn't a lot of time to read everything accurately, but is my understanding correct that under all of the exclusions to public comment that are proposed in this, there won't be any more announcements coming from the Forest Service about upcoming projects. Like now, if there's something on the Ochoco, I'm on an electronic mailing list, I get notified. It sounds like all of that kind of thing is going to be curtailed. Is that correct?
So I can't speak into the full NEPA process, but as what we're operating under, if you're signed up, you go on our forest webpage and you sign up for NEPA project updates. We are still sending those out. So for our North Slope project, if you were signed up, then you would have gotten the scoping notification and access to, the documents, which are on our website for all of our projects.
Right, but that is prior to this thing that they did.
I'm not sure what thing you're talking
The thing is, the proposal among many other similar things is that, for example, the EAs will be strictly limited to 75 pages. Public comments will be strictly limited to 15 pages. That also pertains to objections. But the biggest aspect of this is that instead of a 30-day comment period or objection period, it will be reduced to 10 days. 10 days. That's not long enough to even read documents and contemplate them. I wish I were kidding, but this is a real thing. And like I say, I didn't know about it until some colleagues sent it to me. And it's pretty serious, but it looks like y'all are willing to stretch a little bit. And like if you're willing to do scoping when you don't have to, I was imagining that maybe that mailing list that we're on would still be in operation if this thing goes through.
So the mailing list is still in operation?
Well, now, but after this.
After.
So I think for this
Maybe some
specifically,
conflating.
I think we'll have to do some, investigation on that, but just to clarify, just like with what we did with these North Slope projects, if it is within our jurisdiction, our policy to engage with the public, whether that's an email list, a scoping period, stakeholder meetings, et cetera, we will do that. That is Jeff's commitment, that's our forest-wide commitment.
So what you're referring to, I'd have to see it, I don't, it has not come up, I mean, you don't know how many meetings, it has not come up over my regional leadership team discussions. It sounds, we know that they've curtailed how we can engage the public around the NEPA process.
Right.
You're right about the page limits. You're right that we have to, we put this proposed action out last week. We have 1 year to get it done, right? I mean, so all that stuff we're all familiar with. As far as the 6 dead, I don't know what you're referring to specifically. So our understanding is we're not required to scope the way we used to.
Yeah, I realize that.
Okay, but I'm also told that I have the discretion to scope up to 30 days. The scoping plan, the communications plan that we put together for our big projects was approved by the Washington office. So they know that I'm doing 30 days. My boss knows. So no one's questioning us. We got approval for doing the 30 days. I'm not aware that in the future is going to change and I won't be able to do.
Well, I hope that it doesn't.
Yeah,
Because this will be horrific for the general public. We will not be able to actually materially into anything if this goes through. I don't think I'm making it up. I mean, I went through Kara to submit my comments, everything, got this back that they received it. So there's a thing. It's an actual thing. And so it'd be really nice if you could be prepared to speak to that maybe next meeting that we have. And clarify that. It was pretty scary.
Well, because you said that closing was March 9th, Claire. So I think we probably need a little more understanding of what you're referring to, because I think we're doing as much as we can to keep the public informed as much as we can, but I don't know that, I don't know what you're referring to. And more than Willie sure dig into it more.
That Slater, that really reflects a disconnect that is also really troubling.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, but I know that we're doing we're following the rules that are set for.
I don't
for us
doubt it.
today. So some of the rules may have changed a little bit, but we don't know what that is. But I'm thinking we're doing the best we can with what our rules been set forth for us. And
So I think at the December meeting, when Jen was here talking about new NEPA, she talked about some of the things, Gail, you just sort of raised, the expedited comment stuff, and we at the time and even in January expressed, I remember Cliff talking about the concern that with expedited NEPA, the risk of the public not having comment, the risk of this group sort of losing its ability to comment.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of going on at the national level, but I think you guys have been consistent. Even in December when Jen and what the new rules were is that you guys were gonna do as much as you could do, BLM both. Of continuing to have local input. And yeah, like maybe the objection period's not gonna exist anymore, so we gotta figure something else out after a decision's made, but.
And we also offered up this group and if we needed to be a part of
So-
facilitating public.
So Gail, I think it's kind of occurring to me now, I'd have to see it, I think you're referring to, so we went from Forest Service NEPA regulations to USDA NEPA regulations. There was an interim process where we fell under the USDA regulations. I think what I'm getting at with you is that's become official now, that we Forest Service has fully adopted the USDA NEPA regulations. I think that's what you're referring to.
No, it is not. Honestly, it is not. I realize all that. This is at the Forest Service administrative level. That's where this came from, and that's where it went to submit our comments. If it was a horrible hoax, I'll be real happy. But it sure didn't look like one. And it's not an indictment on the local Forest Service office by any means. I'm just saying, if it goes through as stated, and there's a litany of things that are gonna change drastically. If this is real, then I'm just saying, please stay with your mission of informing and engaging the public locally.
And I think we are, in that SBO, I think if you can help us with what you're referring to, we sure look into it.
Well, Gail, if you would, share that with them
Please.
before they leave today, so they can
Or you can
actually see it.
Just pass
But-
this on to.
But one thing I want to emphasize that Jeff has stated numerous times, with the restructure with the Forest Service, they're turning more of the local, or more of the decisions over to Jeff. And I trust in Jeff with what he's told us and demonstrated to date, that even if there is a change like that, Jeff's still gonna take our input.
So I know what this is. Thank you, I appreciate that, and it's true. The good news is what I just committed to you today, based on this one-page thing here, nothing is gonna change. What you are talking about is the change to 218 regulations. So what that is, that refers specifically to the pre-decision or objection review process. I just mentioned to you that because our projects fall within the ESD designation, we are not required to do 218. What this is, and I'm aware of this change, is that on all projects, the 218 regulations are being removed, and there'll be a very limited, if non-existent, objection review process, okay? That's what this is about. This isn't about scoping. Like what we described today as far as scoping, as far as I know, the NEPA regulations, that's not gonna be, just, these are the 218 regs. You're absolutely right, Dale, this is going away, most likely. Well, it depends, no decision's been made. And then the administration has decided that objection process is getting in the way of us getting our work done. And so that's what this is about.
But
This doesn't seem, from what I can see, because I'm looking at this thing, it's not gonna change our approach to engaging with you around these projects, other than I can tell you, if this goes through, there won't be any objection process at all for anybody across the entire Forest Service. That's what this is.
It was clear in the synopsis, though, that, it didn't just apply to like Northwest Plan projects, it applied to all projects.
Yeah, it does, yeah, 218, that would apply to the entire suite of projects across the entire US Forest Service, that is
And
correct.
so how does that exempt the stipulations of that synopsis that said comment periods for an EA would be limited to 10 days? For an EIS, I believe 15 days. How does that not apply to all of us?
That is the comment period applying to like a proposed action, as far as I know, that is not,
It wasn't just to objections
okay.
and the fact that objections are going away, it was to comment periods.
So I don't have to do any comment period right now, and we've chosen to do some, so, they're giving us flexibility on how long we can engineer our scoping period. I haven't heard anything about that changing. We'll find out if that is indeed true, and I'm literally to say you can only scope 15 days, well, then it is what it is. I don't have control over that, but I'll let you know if that is the case, but and during these meetings, we haven't heard anything about
We
that.
haven't heard anything, but multiple people have said, even if that were the case, let's say they take away the discretion to hold any scoping period at all. As you said, we are committed to engaging with this community. So whether that's through a formal scoping process or meetings like this, we will continue to do so.
Yeah, agreed, so, well, thanks for bringing that up, I think I know what that is, but that whole piece, there's nothing in the discussions I've been around 218 has told me that I'm fully restricted and limited completely to like 15 days or whatever.
Well, I look forward to what you have next time, and I'll tell all of the fearful public that is commenting on this, relax. Right.
218, yeah, I mean, that is true, that may go away. Yeah.
Somehow under the new USDA rules, yeah, that's what, I think Jen mentioned, talked about in January, the proposal.
Which will make all the things we talked about in engaging the public here today even more important.
Look, and we're going to engage, we will continue to engage in some form of fashion to the extent we can.
Because I can tell you all the other, I mean, I just was in DC recently for a forest supervisor, active like management workshop. And I was with the chief a lot, and Chris French is our deputy chief. And everything that they want to do, us to do, is to do exactly what we're doing here today. The commitment from the Forest Service is engage with their community, understanding community, listening to community, everything we're trying to do. But I was doing before this, but I mean, I feel like the commitment's there for us to maximize these opportunities as much as possible, regardless of what the NEPA rules are, so. That's what I'm hearing. This is exactly what we should be doing.
Any further public comment?
Obviously, we're fast. I'll leave flyers on the table for the wildfire preparedness fair that's happening right before the air curtain incinerator at Wilco on the 11th. And then we have a wildfire home protection strategies workshop happening at the Junior Canyon Baptist Church this Saturday. If you're interested in that, it's a free 3-hour class. And then finally, we're updating the centraloregonfire.org website. So that when our federal partners put out information on prescribed burning, pile burning, that sort of thing, we had a broken, a vendor that did email blast, it broke. So we're hiring a new vendor and hopefully getting a refund from the old one, so that those email updates should start coming again. So apologies that wasn't happening, but we're updating information for smoke and public health. And we've added a whole new section on preventing wildfires that we're building out. So that centraloregonfire.org website will be much more usable. In particular, I didn't want it to be so Deschutes centric. So we've been working with emergency managers, trying to get more focus on Crook and Jefferson counties. So just so you're aware, all of that going on as part of our Oregon movement.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
I move we adjourn.
I'm gonna table it. Hold on just a second. I wanted to take the time to thank everyone that showed up.
Yeah.
And hanging around. This one went a little long, but I think it was important what everybody had to say, and I appreciate your guys, your gentleman's response.
Yep,
Thank
thanks for
you.
staying, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion.
You
Second to adjourn, is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Stand up.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Yeah, just give me credit.
I got her.